Guys, the NFL draft is about a week away, and one of the main topics that a lot of Packers fans have been talking about is if the Packers will end up trading out of pick 23. Whether you think there's a potential trade up opportunity for a prospect if he falls down the draft board, or more likely, if the Packers will end up trading down in the first round to pick up more draft picks later in the draft. Brian Gutekunst has gone on record basically saying that he expects to have more draft picks than he currently has now. The Packers are set to have 8 draft picks in the 2025 NFL draft, a big change up from the past 2 seasons where they had double digits each draft. And we know how the Packers love to have bigger draft classes. That's been a Brian Gutekunst thing since he became the GM of the Green Bay Packers in 2018. So although a potential trade up could happen, if a certain player falls to a certain spot, yeah, the Packers could definitely go and trade up for that player if they're very high on their board, and it just makes sense. But as I said, I think it's more likely that the Packers trade down some spots, still end up picking in the first round, maybe towards the late 20s, and then getting a player they still want and more draft picks, and maybe even end up coming out of this draft with, say, 9 or 10 players. So in today's video, we're going to break down potential trades for the Green Bay Packers, whether that's a trade up, whether that's a trade down in both the first and second rounds. And we're going to be using the Rich Hill draft trade chart, which essentially assigns a point value to each draft pick, which then can allow you to kind of see what would have to be given up or offered in a potential draft day trade. First, want to give a big shout out to BetUsTV for sponsoring today's video. Guys, if you're looking for more sports content, definitely go check them out over on YouTube at BetUsTV. I'll link it down in the description below. Tons of different sports shows and videos and content over there on BetUsTV. They also have an X account. It's at BetUsTV. Definitely go check them out if you guys are looking for more sports content. Again, a big, massive shout out to BetUsTV for being this year's channel sponsor. Also, guys, I launched a new channel. I'm starting to make custom football cleats. It would mean a lot to me if you went and checked out the channel. And if it's something that does interest you, maybe even clicking subscribe over there. Something I'm just starting to get into. And of course, if you're looking for some custom cleats for the next season, definitely shoot me a message. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and then also YouTube there as well. All right, so now let's dive into the video and let's go over the potential trade ups or trade downs for the Green Bay Packers in this upcoming draft that is just 1 week away. Very, very excited for this draft, the first ever in Green Bay. So bringing up the screen, first I want to show you the Rich Hill trade value chart. So like I said earlier, this assigns a point value to every pick for the Green Bay Packers, such as at pick 23 is worth 245 points. And you can see what all the other picks are worth, such as the number 1 overall pick worth 1,000 points. So the Packers wouldn't even be able to trade up with all of their draft picks to get to number 1. That's how valuable, of course, the number 1 pick is. But where they start to see value, or where they start to see, hey, they could potentially trade up and not have to give up too much, and this is what I did in my last mock draft, is around 18 or 19. As you see, there's really only a difference of, say, 30-ish, 40-ish points there, which is typically right around a third round pick, maybe even less if you package some other picks together. You can see how low value 7th round, 6th round picks are. As for example, the Packers pick at 198 is only worth 5 points. Their pick at 237 is worth 2 points. Their pick at 250 is only worth 1 point. So anytime you see potential trades of, oh, we're just going to give them a bunch of late round picks and still move up in the first round, that's really not how it works. Obviously, you got to give a team actual value. And of course, you could attribute players into these trades. Player for draft pick trades obviously happen more often during the draft than they do in the off season or the regular season. And the Packers do have someone on the trade block, it seems, with Jaire Alexander. And it seems that if a trade's going to happen, it's probably going to be either during the draft or after the draft. And some recent news this week was that the Packers are still shopping Jaire Alexander. They just have yet to get an offer they wanted. And there was a rumor that earlier this offseason, there was a trade that was supposed to happen, but the contract reworking wasn't working with Jaire and that new team. So it seems very likely the Packers are still going to be moving on from Jaire Alexander. So if the Packers also want to, say, trade up to a certain spot and give draft capital or add Jaire into that trade, or if they don't trade him in that said trade, they could trade him later in the draft and get more draft capital capital, get draft capital back. It's kind of what I did in the last mock draft. If you want to go check that out, go check it out over my channel. We trade up to pick 19 with Tampa Bay, select a very polarizing defensive player, and then also trade Alexander later in the draft. So saying that, I made a document basically going over what we'd have to send and what we would receive via the Rich Hill draft trade chart at certain picks. Now, this is part of my Packers threshold document. I also have top 30 visits here at the bottom, as you see here. We'll go over the top 30 visits early next week. I want the Packers to get most of them on record, right? Obviously, I don't want to make a video right now about top 30 visits, and then 2 days from now, they have 10 more. It wouldn't really make too much sense. So I'm going to release this document early next week as well. It's going to include all the Packers threshold fits at positions of need. We're going to be doing tackle. It's going to be probably released tomorrow, and then I'll be doing interior offensive line early next week, and that will finish it up. So back to the draft trade chart here. I listed a decent amount of potential options, realistic options for the Packers. I have trading down to 25, 26, 27, all the way down to 36. Now, do I see the Packers trading from 23 to 36? Probably not, and that's where I stopped it, because further that point, I just don't really see it as a realistic option. And then as for trading up, I have options trading up just one pick with the LA Chargers. That could happen if they really, really like a player and they don't want another team to jump them, right? And I have it all the way up to pick 15. I personally don't see the Packers trading up past 18 if they trade up at all, but I went all the way to 15 just to kind of show you guys what it would cost to go and get up to that pick for a potential player. Then I did the same thing in round 2, but only trade ups. I think there's also a possibility that the Packers trade down in the first round, maybe a few picks, but then trade back up in the second round to then get another player early in the second round, kind of similarly to what they did with Christian Watson. So I listed these as well. So first, let's get into the trade down opportunities for the Green Bay Packers. I didn't do trade down to 24 with the Minnesota Vikings. I just don't see a pick swap there with a division rival, one right next to each other. It just doesn't seem too realistic. So with the Houston Texans, let's first go with trade down opportunities to 25 with the Texans. We'd send 23, 87, 237, but we'd get back 25, 79, and 166. So we'd be dropping 2 spots, but we'd be upgrading our 3rd round pick by 8 spots, and then we'd be swapping a 7th round pick for, I believe, a 5th round pick there at 166. So that'd be very, very good value for just dropping 2 picks, right? You're moving up in the 3rd round, getting a better player, getting better value in the 3rd round, and then you're swapping a 7th round pick, your second to last pick, for a 5th round pick. We know how great the Packers are drafting in the 5th round. Now moving down to the LA Rams, we'd send 23 and 237, so our 1st round pick, our 7th round pick, but we'd get back a 4th round pick and a 7th round pick. So we'd upgrade our 7th round pick and we'd net an additional 4th round pick. I like this one a lot because you're only moving 3 spots. That's kind of where I think the Packers could trade down to, maybe 26, 27. I don't know if they do with Detroit. I added it on here just because it could happen, or Washington at 29. I think these are all options, but I think if the Packers can trade down in the 1st round, maybe upgrade some of their picks in later rounds, and add an additional pick like they do here, I think it's a great option. And I like Baltimore even more. Trading down with 27 to Baltimore, and this could include Jair Alexander. It definitely could. Sending pick 23, we return 27, we'd get 129 in the 4th round, and we'd also get 176 in the 5th round. This is probably my favorite trade down opportunity for the Packers. We're moving down 4 spots, and we're picking up 2 additional picks, 1 in the 4th and 1 in the 5th. I think this is a perfect trade opportunity. And as I'm recording, I figured I'd add this little chart because sometimes it's hard to do the quick math in your head, as well as all the compensatory picks to understand, okay, 176, where's that at? That's actually the final pick in the 5th round. So with Baltimore, you get 27, 129, which is in the 4th round, and 176, which is the final pick in the 5th round. I really, really like the value there. Then we move on to Detroit. We'd be sending 23 and 250, our final pick in the 7th round, but we'd be getting back 102, so the final pick in the 3rd round, and 196, which is a pick in the 6th round. I think the Lions would have to give up a little bit more value than an equal trade value on the Rich Hill chart, just because as a division rival, the Packers would probably want more from the Detroit Lions. Again, I like the Baltimore trade a lot better than, say, this Detroit one, because with Baltimore, I just like those picks better. 102 is obviously better than 129, but 176 is better than 196, and we're not giving up that 7th round pick. But they definitely both are options. Then we have Washington at 29. We'd be sending 23 and 87, so our first round and our third round. With this one, we'd be picking up their second round pick at 61. So we'd be giving our third, but we'd be upgrading that pick by 26 total spots there, and we'd be picking up a sixth round pick from them at 205. I like that value a lot too. Say if you don't want the Packers to have a third round pick, which recently there hasn't been too much of a third round pick curse for the Packers like in recent past, but say if you want the Packers to trade down, also have 2 second round picks and 2 sixth round picks, this is a very good option. Down to 30 with Buffalo, we'd be giving, same as Washington, 23 and 87, but we'd actually be picking up 4 total picks. So we'd be picking up their first round pick, obviously swapping firsts. We'd be swapping our third for their second at 62. But unlike Washington, we'd be picking up an additional pick in the 5th round. So this one I like better than Washington. Obviously, you're moving down a spot, so you're getting more draft capital there. 30, to me, I still like a lot of the players around that range. Again, this all depends on how the draft board falls. Then we have 31 to Kansas City, giving 23 and 237, getting back 31, 95, and 133. 32 to Philly, giving 23 and 198. We'd receive back 4 picks, 32, 96 in the 3rd round, 134 in the 4th round, and 161 in the 5th round. That's also a lot of value. Now, of course, we'd be giving up 198, which is a 6th round pick, but you'd be getting back a 3rd, a 4th, and a 5th from the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you want to trade all the way down 9 spots, that's a far drop in the 1st round. You got to pay for it. And the Packers could potentially end up with 2 more draft picks and a lot more draft picks in the middle rounds by doing so. Then if you want to trade out of the 1st round, this has been a conversation, an interesting topic, because some people have thought that because the draft is in Green Bay, they won't trade out of the 1st. But Mark Murphy went on camera and pretty much said, yeah, that could definitely be the case. He said he gave Gutekunst the green light. If it's best for the Packers to trade out of the 1st round and get a bunch of draft capital, and some teams offering an absurd amount, yeah, they will definitely do it, which makes sense, as you should. They shouldn't dictate just because the draft is in Green Bay. So for trades out of the 1st and then into the early 2nd, Cleveland would be sending 23, 159, and 250, but getting back 33, 67, and 216. So really only sending a 5th round and a 7th round there, but getting back an overall 3rd round pick and a 7th round pick there. Down to New York Giants, we'd be sending 23 and 159. We'd be getting 34, 65, and 219. Down to Tennessee, now they don't really have a lot of picks from the 2nd round. I don't even know if they have any in the 3rd. So this one looks a little goofy, a little unrealistic, but I just added it because I wanted to add a pick down to 35, but this one's very unlikely. We'd be sending 23, and that's it. But we'd be getting back 35, 103, 141, 188, and a 2026 3rd round pick. Now, I tried to not add too many 2026 draft picks, which it's possible. Like that happens a lot where teams trade future draft picks to move up in drafts. But I don't know the preemptive value of said draft picks. So I'm assuming the team will finish in a similar position, and that's what I valued the Tennessee Titans 3rd round draft pick in 2026. Finally, the final trade down I have is to 36 with Jacksonville. We'd be sending 23 and 198, but we'd be getting back 36, 70, and 142. Now for trade up opportunities, I'm going to go through these a little bit quicker. Up with the LA Chargers, we'd be sending 23, 159, and 237, and we'd be getting 22 and 209. So really losing 159 there, and then upgrading our 7th round a little bit. But generally speaking, you're losing a pick, and it's going to be 159. Up to Pittsburgh, you're going to be losing 2 picks here. These next 2 I'm not too fond of. I think you're giving away too much draft capital to move up a couple spots. But it can happen. If a player's falling and you don't think they're going to reach 23, this might be worth it to some teams. Do I think it's going to be worth it to the Packers? Do they seem like a trade-up candidate in this draft? Probably not, but we'll see. Giving Pittsburgh 23, 159, 198, and getting back 21. Giving Denver 23, 124, 237, getting 20. Now here's where Tampa Bay comes in, and I like this because you're losing draft position, but you're not losing any draft capital in terms of the amount of picks you have. Gutekunst doesn't want to lose the total amount of picks he has. He doesn't want to go lower than where he's already at. He wants to get higher. He wants to have 9 picks, 10 picks, maybe even 11 picks. So you could trade up with Tampa Bay at 19 and still keep 8 picks, then maybe trade down later in the draft, then pick up your 9th pick, your 10th pick. So with Tampa Bay, it's giving 23, 87, 159, but getting back 19, 4th round pick, and a 7th round pick. So you're giving up your 3rd round. You're giving up your 5th round pick. but you're getting back a 4th round pick there and also a 7th round pick. It's not the worst. Obviously, then there's a pretty big gap from our 2nd round pick all the way to 121. But if you're going up to get a player, maybe what you see as a star player, it's worth it to you. Seattle 18, we're giving 23, 87, 159, receiving 18 and 137. So really just losing our 3rd round pick and then upgrading our 4th round pick. To Cincinnati at 17, we have to give up 3 picks here, 23, 87, and 237. So you're losing your 3rd round, you're losing one of your 7th rounds, but you're moving up to pick 17. Up to 16 with Arizona, you're giving your 1st round pick, your 2nd round pick, and your 3rd round pick, but you are getting back the Arizona 3rd round pick, 4th and 7th. So you're getting back some there. You're not just losing all those picks. Up to Atlanta, giving 23 and 54, our 1st and 2nd. We're getting 15 and their next year, 2026 3rd round pick. All right, finally, let's go over some trade ups into the 2nd round. Now, I started at 37 with Las Vegas. Now, they definitely could trade up all the way to, 33, 34, 35, 36. But I think where, in my opinion, it starts for the Packers, because they're all the way down at 54, and it would take a lot to get up to, like, say, 34. That's 20 total picks in the 2nd round. So I think it starts at 37 with Las Vegas. I think if certain players start to fall and it's right around 37, 38, 39, 40, that the Packers could potentially trade up. Say hello to Junie in the background there. So to get up to 37 with Las Vegas, we'd be setting 54, 87, 159, and simply getting back 37. So giving up a decent amount of draft capital. Up to 38 with New England, pretty much the same thing, but instead of 159, it's 198. And similarly with Chicago, pretty much the same thing, but instead of 198, it's 250. So as you see here, you get farther and farther back. Your 3rd pick you have to give up is less and less value. Up to 40 with New Orleans, giving 54, 87, and 198, but getting back 40 and 184. Chicago, they have picks at 39 and 41, and here you would be swapping 3 picks for 3 picks. 54, 87, 159, and you'd be getting back 41, 148, and 233. Here up to 42 with the New York Jets. I don't mind this one too much. I don't necessarily like getting rid of our 3rd round pick, but if it's going up to get like a premier player that you maybe had a 1st round grade on and he's falling to pick 42, maybe it's Jaden Higgins, giving up a 3rd round pick, I'm not too mad at that. 54 and 87, and you'd be getting back a 4th round pick at 162. And again, the Packers do very well drafting in the 4th round. Up to San Fran, it's a 3 pick for 3 pick swap there. 54, 87, 124 for 43, 100, and 227. Up to Dallas at 44, 54, 124, 159 for 44 and 239. So you're really losing 4th round and a 5th round and getting back a 7th. Not really fond of that one there. Similarly with Indianapolis, you're losing your 4th round, you're losing a 6th round, but you're getting up to 45. Some of these I just don't really like too much. I want the Packers to have more 4th and 5th round picks. That's really where they excel. I'd almost rather them get rid of a 3rd, but maybe pick up an extra 5th. Atlanta, 54, 124, 237, but getting 46. Up to Arizona at 47, 54, and our 4th round to just move up to 47 there, 7 total picks. Here up to 48 in Miami, 54, 124, 159 to get back 48 and 135. So you'd be slightly moving down in the 4th round there and essentially just giving up a 5th round pick. Here up to Cincinnati at 49. Not too fond of this one either because you're sending 4 picks and you're receiving 2. Now, of course, these can be reworked. If you go look at the Rich Hill draft trade chart, you can probably make other combinations. This is just kind of the first one I came upon when I was doing the math, and it's just like, okay, that works. So would the Packers move up 5 spots and lose 2 draft picks? Probably not. This probably wouldn't happen, but this is just the value, and they'd probably end up sending maybe a future 2026 draft pick and maybe getting back, and there'd be other ways to do this. But 54, 124, 159, 198 for 49 and 119. Then finally, moving up to 50. So moving up 4 spots, it would take the Packers their 5th round draft selection up to 50 at Seattle. So those are a slew of potential draft day trades, not only trading up in the 1st round, trading down in the 1st round, but also trading up in the 2nd round. Out of all of these potential trades, and I know it's a lot of numbers, it's a lot of data, but which one do you see the most realistic, or which one would you want the Packers to complete? And of course, I know it completely depends on how the draft board falls, but say if a player, or say you want the Packers to trade down in the 1st round regardless, I really like Baltimore at 27, and then say you want the Packers to trade up and go get, a key player in the 2nd round, I really like New York Jets at 42. You're giving giving up your third, but you're getting back a fifth round pick. So let me know down in the comments below what you think of these trades. What do you want the Packers to do in terms of trades this coming draft next week? I really appreciate you guys coming by to the channel. A quick reminder to go check out BetUsTV for more sports content. They're linked down in the description below. I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.